Previously, we tried catching Cebu Pacific's A330neo on its first revenue flight only to get frustrated as it wasn't deployed on the day we expected. Now scheduled, I grabbed the chance to fly this baby once and for all. Check out my flight experience as I try out Cebu Pacific's newest pride on a quick run to Davao City. Only here on Airline Travel and Airports. And so I find myself back at Manila International Airport's Terminal 3, expecting to endure the outrageously long lines this place is known for. But with my flight with Cebu Pacific today, I'm just surprised to find a more relaxed atmosphere. I guess it was the holiday rush back then where we had to make our way through the crowd just to get to the gates. Now what makes up from last time's misery is the convenience of having these self-check-in kiosks. And learning my lesson with this budget carrier, I travel light. After entering my travel details, my boarding pass is printed out. It's that easy and it's that quick. And with it, I walk past a familiar place where it ate a chunk of our time just to check our bags in. Not this time. I'm skipping that area and proceeding to another security check. Okay, this time, I'm pretty sure Cebu Pacific is deploying their newest pride in the scheduled flight to Davao City. And as I walked closer to our gate, I finally saw the A330neo up close. I'm simply in disbelief that I'd get to fly aboard it today. Once I made it to the gate, all I can do is simply savor the view of what's also been dubbed as Cebu Pacific's Eco Plane, with significantly having less emissions and even more efficient than the previous A330 CEO. Shortly, an announcement was made, and purchasing a Standard Plus seat along with my ticket, I'm among the first few passengers given priority to board ahead. Now things are getting more and more exciting for me as I walk closer towards the aircraft that has eluded us the last time. Getting near the door was already surreal. From where I'm standing, one can get a glimpse of its awesome interior with a certain scent emitting from the cabin that assures you that the plane is simply brand new. Walking along the aisle, one can surely notice how the cabin's bright, innovative colors exude a different feel. No dull or boring shades even with the seats. By the way, the Recaro seats in this cabin are pre-reclined, and they're fixed in an angle which I don't really mind. What's important for me is having these USB ports where I can recharge my gadgets during flight. And before I can explore my space any further, I'm greeted with someone who kinda looks familiar. Well, it's good to see a crew member previously featured in my blog that showcased their A330 CEO. We're both on the same flight again, and this time on board the A330neo. I haven't gone further away from my seat and I'm already fascinated with everything around, from its innovative airspace lighting effect to its sporty looking seats to crew members in their stylish PPEs. The cabin just presents a vibrant and youthful appearance. As boarding continues, another crew member gives out a few reminders to passengers. And despite the nice view outside, I still find myself restless in my seat and eager to explore the cabin even more. Well, it's now or never. I rarely fly Cebu Pacific, so up I go and eventually began making my way to the back. Now this is something I can do whenever the plane's not filled with passengers, enjoying the sight of unoccupied space as well as marveling at the sight of all these dynamic looking Recaro seats. By the way, I was told that the colors infused in this cabin don't only represent this airline's vibrant blue and yellow palette, but also reflects the festive island of Cebu, with seats reflecting the sea and yellow hues representing mangoes, to what the Queen City is also known for. Meanwhile, space is a bit tight at the rear galley, but it still looks modern and stylish nonetheless. Anyway, I'm just amazed looking at how all these 459 Recaro slimline seats are fitted in this aircraft. I can't imagine the chaos having all these seats filled up. Not for now in this Manila to Davao leg. With not much people around, I take the chance to explore some more, making my way to the only lavatory I found available at the rear part of the cabin. It's not as roomy as I expected, and it's one area you don't want to stay in for too long. But what makes up for the lack of space is how spotless it looks, other than it does smell clean. And speaking of clean, a flight attendant readily sanitizes my hand. It's one thing I appreciate, while also taking the opportunity to break the ice with crew members, and also informing them that I'll be on the same flight later back to Manila. After a few chit-chat, it was time to walk back to my seat as I feel the cabin door would be closed soon as there are no more passengers coming in. As I make my way towards the front, I couldn't help savor the view of the entire cabin. After all, other than it's new, what adds to its appeal is how fresh and modern it's designed, giving an onboard environment that's both youthful and energetic just by simply being inside this plane. I heard one passenger mention that seats here reminded him of gaming chairs, and that all that's needed are computer screens and a bunch of gamers. I thought that would make it look like a flying internet cafe. For my seat number, it's 12A. Yes, I purchased this seat so I can get a good view of the engine as well as get to hear it as it tries to scream during takeoff. And as usual, I explore my space around my seat, checking out my tray table and the stuff in my seat pocket where an air sickness bag is readily available for use whenever you need it. Next thing I find is this plane's safety card, which doesn't easily get worn out as it's made of and printed on some durable plastic sheet. It's easy to understand and presents clear and concise directions that even first-time flyers can follow its instructions. And as I return all the stuff back and try to find something to do, an announcement is heard in the cabin. Just a few words from the flight deck.
Hello everyone from the flight deck. My name is Mark and I'll be your first officer for this flight, bound for Davao. Between the flight deck are Captain Sam Avila and Virgil Concepcion. Together with the rest of your crew, headed by Jessica, would like to welcome you on board Cebu Pacific, Flight 5J971, your Airbus A330 jet service bound for Davao. At the moment, we're just waiting for a couple more guests to join our flight. Time checked for convenience, it is exactly 23 minutes past 1 in the afternoon. And weather out of Manila is reported to be good, with just a few clouds surrounding the airfield. Current winds are coming from the east of Manila at this time, with the current temperature reported at a warm 32 degrees Celsius. After airborne, a route of flight will take us to the south. We'll be initially heading towards the east of Mount Banahaw, then overhead Lucena City in Quezon, flying overhead Masbate Island before heading towards the area of Mindanao, initially flying over Butuan as we begin our descent bound for Davao. We'll be covering a total distance of approximately 560 nautical miles. Flying time is at around 1 hour and 25 minutes. That is from takeoff out of Manila all the way to landing in Davao later on this afternoon. To safeguard guests and crew members against the threats of the pandemic, Cebu Pacific has implemented additional precautionary measures to provide everyone peace of mind while in flight. Your safety and comfort is always our priority. We request all guests to pay attention to announcements from the flight deck and the cabin crew. Your usual patience, full cooperation, and compliance are highly appreciated. Please do not hesitate to call on the attention of our cabin crew should you require further assistance or clarification on these important measures. We wish you a safe and pleasant journey. Thank you for flying Cebu Pacific.
After some insights from our pilot, crew members are seen initiating their safety demo, accompanied by the movement of our aircraft being pushed away from the gate. Not too long that safety demo's done, that crew members are seen going around the cabin to check on their passengers. And while they do so, I do my own thing, recording a few clips of what's happening outside and at times focusing on the plane's new composite wing as well as its Rolls-Royce Trent 7000 engine. In preparation for departure, crew members adjust the cabin lights simply by swiping their finger on the controls of a touchscreen monitor. Shortly, our plane finally positions itself on the runway, and with everything all set, we were on a roll and soon taking off for Davao City. From where I'm seated, you'll be surprised how quiet the engines are on this A330neo. and even more silent the further you go up front. Amazed over such technology, I can only stare at the engine that doesn't need to produce a loud roaring sound just to make this airplane fly. With seatbelt sign turned off, crew members work their way to the galleys while I sit and observe their routine, and at times checking the view outside my window, only to get surprised when a crew member came up to greet me.
Nakita niya kasi ako din sabi niya, Mitch yan, gumanon siya.
Yeah, he knows you.
Ano sana, kung mag-ask na akong permission sana, pagkabalik ng Manila, if they can take a picture with them.
Sige. Ask ko sila. Mabalik ng Manila?
Oo, kasabay ko kayo mamaya. Ang gagawin kami, CCR lang ko sa Davao. Kasi di ba ito yung frustration?
Bumili ka naman ng turtle.
Hindi na makakalabas, tatakbuhin ko talaga eh.
Oh my God.
Oo.
Sige. See you then later.
Ito yung vlog mo. Saan ba yun?
Yun.
Napanood mo na ba? Hindi pa?
Hindi pa.
Oo. May caption pa. Ayan o. Where are your companions?
Diba? Nice to see you again.
Oo. Si Lara sa akin, hindi ko nakita. Sige, ano na lang. Coffee lang.
Well, I can't believe that our pilot has ordered to send in some refreshments, which I appreciate very much. It sure feels nice to get recognized, but for our pilots to reach out and offer something out of goodwill is something that meant a lot to me. And not too long that our flight attendant comes back, this time with a cup of brewed coffee.
Ayan, wow.
Compliments from the captain.
Thank you. Magpasabi yung cup, thank you ah.
Yes, ito nga yung ano din.
Kami card.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, coffee and our captain's calling card? Talk about being treated like VIP. Now this kind of treatment makes me want to fly Cebu Pacific even more. In the meantime, I'm still feeling restless that I want to roam around the cabin, but considering safety measures during this time, I guess I'll just show the areas close to where I'm at. Honestly, I can't help taking my sights off these ergonomically designed and lightweight seats, and while they look thin, believe it or not, they're still comfortable. These pre-reclined Recaro seats are specially designed for low-cost carriers with the slim features able to provide extra legroom. It seems Cebu Pacific has made the right choice, fitting all 459 of them inside one of the most quiet Airbus cabins flying today. Now talk about maximizing profit without sacrificing comfort. By the way, I'm seated at 12A, and do take note, there's no row 13 behind me, but rather there's row 14, which you don't want to be in as it doesn't have any window. If you're the type who wants to enjoy good views outside, you need to skip this row when reserving your seat. So far, in short hops like this, I find the setup okay, but we just have to find out later how this will all hold up in longer routes. And so back to my seat I go to savor my flight experience aboard this A330neo for the remaining time we have. With our plane now descending, crew members are again seen going around the cabin, this time checking on passengers as they prepare them for landing. And with our aircraft eventually making its way past through the clouds, a vast mass of land finally appears. As we drew nearer and nearer our destination, a few adjustments are made through a touchscreen monitor, also called FAP, or Flight Attendant Panel. From then on, it was only a matter of time, and after a few turns, we were aligned with the runway, and were soon landing in Davao City. It's good to be back here again in Davao City, but then again I had to remind myself that I'm not here on vacation and that I'm only featuring my flight experience aboard this A330neo and that I have to take the same plane back to Manila. With that in mind, I couldn't wait for the door to be opened as Cebu Pacific is known to do quick turnarounds, and I'm pretty sure you know what happens when check-in counters close with agents known to be not so forgiving about it. Once cleared to disembark, I can only tell the crew that I'm taking the same flight back to Manila, as if asking them to wait for me in case things don't go well downstairs as I go through departures. Upon exiting, it was a mad dash trying to find my way to arrivals. Now I just gotta do it fast as I believe check-in counters for our return flight is closing. Or worse, it might have already closed. Now if that happens, I'll sure be in big trouble. No other passengers here in arrivals but me, and since I've been here a couple of weeks ago, I easily found my way out of the arrival hall. Now things are happening too fast for things to sink in that I've in fact set foot in Davao, and this huge sign somewhat helps remind me that I'm indeed here. Seeing a few people entering departures at a distance made me even more tense that I had to run some more, hoping I've never been left behind. And upon reaching the departure hall, I'm met with a big surprise that there's still plenty of people lined up at the counters. Able to check in hours earlier using Cebu Pacific's mobile app even gave more relief, as I was told to proceed directly to the gate without having to fall in line. Now talk about convenience at the time I needed it. Learning that I'm not late for my return flight, I began to slow down and absorb things that I'm really here in Davao for a very quick visit. At least now I can hold up a bit and enjoy the remaining minutes I have here, being able to observe what's going on and doing a little bit of sightseeing at the hallways inside Davao's Francisco Bangoy International Airport. Now before I got to the gate, I present a screenshot of my boarding pass, and soon as it gets verified, I continue on my way, passing by a few shops that also sell fresh fruits to what Davao is also known for, mangosteen and pomelo. But before anything else, I gotta do one thing first, since I'm on a quick stop here for a few minutes. To use the restroom here at Davao's airport. Though it's not my primary mission to use the restroom here, I'm now relieved and happier and soon moving on to find my assigned gate. When I got there, the gate was swamped with people. If the flight coming here was about half empty, the Davao to Manila leg is quite the opposite, which got me wondering how the cabin would later look like. As I drew nearer to take a good look of the plane, another surprise.
Kasama ka na sa vlog. Nanonood daw siya ng sa YouTube. I-add daw niya ako.
Ikaw sa YouTube, vloggers po.
It's nice to have friendly airport staff do a little chit-chat with bloggers like me that I had to include them so that they too would be part of today's vlog. Soon after, boarding begins. And with my row number called, I find myself presenting my boarding pass in the form of a QR code using my phone. Once scanned and cleared, I move along with airport personnel that I've invited to my channel, wishing me to have a safe and pleasant flight back to Manila. It's Cebu Pacific's A330neo, and boarding it again makes me excited as I'll get to experience it again for the second time today. This time with me seated at the back to see if there's any difference in terms of engine noise as it takes off. Well, it's good to be on the same plane and of course with the same crew members.
Hello uli. Oo nga, sa likod naman ako ngayon. Hi.
If I could read minds, I'm sure some of the crew members think I'm doing one ridiculous joyride to Davao and back. But it's Cebu Pacific's new A330neo, so why not?
Sa likod naman ako this time. 48.
Okay, you heard it. I'm seated at the back this time. Flight is sure full that it took a while for me to get to settle in my seat, and once I did, safety demo begins immediately after the door was closed, followed by our plane's pushback with crew members checking on passengers for compliance to safety. We were taxiing shortly and soon lifting off from the runway. It's amazing how this plane's Rolls-Royce Trent 7000 engines don't make much noise. As we continue to climb, all you can imagine are the plane's wings passing through strong wind, with a bit of humming from the engines of course, but it's quiet enough to keep tired passengers relaxed all throughout. Without much freedom to move around the cabin, I decided to stay put in my seat for the duration of our flight. It's been a long day for me that I tried taking a nap, disrupted only when an announcement was made.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now on our final descent, and the captain has switched on the fasten seatbelt sign. At this time, make sure that window shades are up, tray tables are stowed, seat backs are in their upright position, and your seatbelts are securely fastened.
After their rounds, crew members are then called to their landing stations. Familiar landmarks come into view outside my window, and soon we were touching down in Manila. Well, it's nice to be back home, as if I've been gone far away for too long. For me, arriving at Manila's airport in the evening means concluding a trip, and what a way to wrap things up as we park next to another A330neo.
Cabin 2 and ready, doors may be open. Thank you, welcome to Manila.
Okay, for travel buddies who flew with me before, I'm usually one of the last few people to disembark, and they exactly know why. And not to forget about the treats given to me earlier, I just had to go up front to personally give my thanks to our pilots. It's not all the time that a pilot would mention my name at the gate, much more having refreshments sent to your seat along with his calling card. So let me just take this opportunity to see them in person before I go. With crew members assisting me with my request to see the pilots, I'm eventually granted my wish, and from the flight deck, I meet the people who handled this smooth flight, along with Cebu Pacific's Vice President for Flight Operations, Captain Sam Avila himself.
Hello. Sir, thank you sa coffee.
Okay. Meron kami ito.
Okay lang po. Opo, since 2009, pero hindi ko pa seryoso yun, sir. Tawag dito, ganda yung landing ka dito.
Meeting our pilots, I was able to thank them as well as commend them, especially for that smooth landing they made a while ago. And before our conversation goes any further, I just gotta have some souvenir shots taken with them.
Naka-stomach in.
Even after a quick photo op, despite the need to disembark, our conversation with our captains still went on and on, discovering that Captain Avila has been featured in an aviation channel on YouTube called Just Planes. Well, he's featured once again, this time in my channel. Today was a good flight. It was also good to meet them. And after my time with our pilots, I then had to continue on my way, not forgetting my ritual even as I exit the plane. And so finally, I'm back at Terminal 3, still in limbo for everything that happened as I make my way to arrivals. I definitely enjoyed this experience with Cebu Pacific. I sure did. It may not be a full-service carrier, but with my journey with Cebu Pacific today, I think I'm gonna have more flights with them. Back in Manila after that quick restroom break in Davao City, this is Mitch Young. Thank you for watching.